Thanks so much. I am so excited to be here with you today. I want to start out by showing you two photos. I want you to take a look at this first photo. This Callie, doesn't she look so sad? She is struggling, and you can see it in her face. And now, this photo is from December 2011. And in December 2011, I was deployed to Kandahar, Afghanistan. And I was a young Army officer. This is my former life as an Army soldier. And in this photo, you can see just my soul being sucked alive. And my mission in Afghanistan was to go out with a platoon of men, a platoon of soldiers, and go out and find roadside bombs. And roadside bombs in 2011 were the leading cause of deaths for Afghan and American soldiers. And so our job was literally to go out into the streets and try and find these bombs, these improvised explosive devices, before anybody else got killed by them. And you think when looking at this photo that this is the reason for the struggle, right? I'm sure you're thinking that if I went out to find bombs that I would be struggling too. But that is in fact not the reason that this is happening. The struggle you see on my face, the sheer desperation from my eyes, is because I felt like a failure. I felt like I was failing, and not at my mission, but as a leader. Now, being one of the first women to lead ground combat troops, I'm sure you can understand that I felt the weight of this debate of women in combat and women being combat leaders. And now I was playing a rigged game, and this struggle was real because I had not broken into the Good Old Boys Club. And to be successful in the Army, to be an influencer, to break barriers, which is what I was doing, you have to break into the Good Old Boys Club. And I don't know if you know this or not, but the Army is a big Good Old Boy Club. And this picture shows my failure at breaking through and my failure at what I felt was supposed to be success. Now I want you to take a look at this second picture. Doesn't she look happy? Doesn't she look confident and successful? This picture was taken about 3 months after the first picture you saw. This is what a leader is supposed to look like. This is what becoming an influencer looks like. Becoming a change maker and a barrier breaker. Now, what I realized from my initial struggle, I spent months feeling like the underdog and feeling like I couldn't break through. So I decided to use something that the Army had taught me and flip the switch a little bit. Remember I said I was playing this rigged game? Well, I decided to change it up a little bit. And I used something we called game theory. Now in the Army, we learn game theory as a way to outmaneuver our enemy and to think several steps ahead of them. So what I decided to do was do this in my own life. And so this picture is me winning at the game. Now what I realized from playing this rigged game is that to be able to flip the switch, to be able to break through the Good Old Boy Club, I had to come at them at their level. And I wasn't doing that in this struggle. Now, the picture that you see of this successful leader, she was actually recruited by the Special Forces Task Force to come work for them. She became an influencer, not only in her job as an engineer officer, but in the Special Forces Task Force developing developmental projects. She is an influencer and a barrier breaker, not only in the world that she was at, but people came to me to solve their problems. Commanders came to me to solve their developmental projects. Now, I'm no longer in the Army. What I do now is I help professionals break through the Good Old Boy Clubs that are standing in their way of success. See, what I realized when I left the corporate field and went into business is that game is rigged too. And what professionals are coming up against are those same Good Old Boy Clubs, those same roadblocks to their success. So what I do now is I change the game. And that is why I am called the game changer. Now, I want to introduce you to one of my clients, and she was initially an acquaintance of mine. In December of 2017, she contacted me knowing that I was doing some work in professional development. And we've known each other for 10 years as acquaintances. And so she's seen me throughout these 10 years and my life unfold on social media. And she came to me and she said, I'm really struggling with my career. And so we hopped on a call. And this woman, April, she is phenomenal. She has a PharmD degree. She has 2 additional master's degrees. She is super intelligent, super bright, and she's struggling. And she's like a lot of people out there. She can't figure out why she doesn't feel successful in the field that she chose and in the field that she loves. And about 5 years ago, she actually transitioned out of pharmacy to become a high school teacher, and she taught AP math. And she struggled with the same things that she was struggling with in pharmacy. So she pivoted again, right? They say pivot if you're unhappy. So she pivoted back into pharmacy, and again, she was unhappy. And she said to me in our initial call, she said, I just feel like I'm more than a retail pharmacist. And there's nothing wrong with being a retail pharmacist, but I know I'm supposed to be doing something more, and I don't know what that is. What changed it for her, what created her in the success mindset, was realizing that in all of these experiences and all of these jobs and careers that she had, she wasn't playing the game. And to win at the game, you have to play at the game. We changed the game for her. About 2 months after we finished the program with her, she called me up and she said, I have just been offered the job that I have been wanting for the past 3 years. Because remember, she didn't want to just be a retail pharmacist. She is super bright. What she wanted to do was make her own drugs. She was offered to run her own compound pharmacy, which means that she was making the change in people's lives that she initially set out when she decided to go to pharmacy school. And not only that, but she had been applying for 2 years for the Navy Reserve. And she had been coming upon these roadblocks and she just couldn't get through. Within those 2 months following my program, she was a commissioned Navy officer. Ooh. Now I said, playing the game, right? And when most people come to this process of there is a game being played and I need to play it, they try and go out on their own. And I have an acquaintance, Mary, who I've known for several years, and probably the last 4 years, she's been struggling in California and as a marketing manager. And Mary doesn't want to hire somebody because she feels like if she just switches jobs, she'll find her tribe. The issue, though, is that when we're trying to make change and be barrier breakers and make a difference in our fields, we're not always inside of our tribes. And what she's realizing is that she can't create the change that she wants on her own. See, when you play a game, you always have a coach, right? Because strategy is the number one key to winning a game. And when you are deep in emotion in this struggle, it is very hard for you to come out of that and see what the best strategy for your game is going to be. Now, most people who try and go at it on their own decide to opt out. There's a study that was done by Hunter College that said 90% of women who decide to opt out of their careers on average are at year 11. And they decide to opt out not because of family obligations or they decide they want to start a family, because we hear that a lot from women especially. I'm gonna go raise my family. It's not because of guilt. It's because of workplace drama. They can't figure out how to be successful and break through the good old boy clubs. I use a method called the bold maneuver. This is the game-changing method. Now, when most people talk about being bold, it's big in our society now, right? Like, be bold. But most people don't know what being bold means. Now, Einstein was bold. Being bold And the definition is going beyond conventional thoughts and actions. Einstein went beyond conventional thoughts and actions in his inventions. So the bold maneuver is going beyond conventional thoughts and actions to achieve your goals. See, nothing great was ever built out of convention. To achieve greatness in life and work, you have to make bold maneuvers. The conventional way is to try harder. That's what all of these professionals are doing. They're just trying to work harder. The unconventional way is to change the game. I'm going to run you through 3 of the plays that we talk about in the bold maneuver. The first play is the one-on-one. To change the game, you have to get to know your opponent on their most basic level. If you talk about the most famous basketball and football and soccer players, they study their opponents. Now that's what you have to do in your professional life. You have to study your opponent, get to know them on a personal level, understand their families, their backgrounds. Remember, I said you're not always going to be involved in the tribes that you're working with. So you have to know why they make the decisions they do, why they take the actions they do. You have to be several steps ahead and understand them and understand their point of view. The second play is the Oprah. Now, who better to talk about influence and buy-in than Oprah Winfrey herself? She is the epitome of influence. Now, to create influence and buy-in, whether it's for your employees or you're trying to create influence in your leadership, you have to understand your opponent. And now these people are not your enemy, let's get that straight, but they are your opponent. You're trying to create that influence. But to do that, you have to play the one-on-one. The third play is the smarter, not harder. Now, I know that each of you, whether you're in corporate now or you were, you had somebody that sat next to you that worked harder not doing their job than actually doing their job, right? And so you or somebody on your team ended up having 2 or 3 jobs because you were doing that person's job. You see, everybody looks like they're working hard, right? The smarter, not harder helps you create the time to be able to create the influence and buy-in. Because to create influence and buy-in and be able to have the time to get to know people, time is what's needed. And so streamlining your systems, creating processes that allow you to work at a faster and more productive pace than everybody else allows you to create that buy-in and that influence that breaks you through the good old boy clubs. If you are feeling like the underdog, like you don't fit in, like you're in a losing game, a game that's unwinnable, and you just can't break through the good old boy clubs that are standing in your way, I want you to send an email to Callie@theboldmaneuver.com. Now, I only have 2 open slots a week. And in the subject line, I want you to say, change the game. Because I want us to figure out how we're going to change the game for you. Remember, greatness was never achieved through convention. Working harder is convention. Changing the game is unconventional. To achieve greatness in life and work, we must make bold maneuvers.
Yes.
Yeah.